This is the National Schools Anti-Corruption Challenge 2023. For this year, I am your host, Waniba Fred Numbers. With me today, we have a special guest right away from Kono. We have Mr. Dumba Timothy, the elect guild president of Uganda Christian University 2022-2023. Gentlemen, with the current situation happening in Uganda, we have corruption, which is basically a vice that has not started today. We shouldn't pretend about that. It has been there for long and it shall always be there. What would be your take on its status quo as a country per now?
Well, first I would like to begin by thanking you for having me here, Mr. Waniba Fred. Well, when asked about corruption, I think it is something that is synonymous with the country, with Uganda. And maybe as an individual, it is something that I would like to see reduced. If at all, could we try to maybe demolish it totally, completely?
It's too big.
It's too
But
big.
we can try.
We can try,
Yeah.
exactly. And I feel that if we are serious about it, just like we are as maybe starting as students, national schools under this initiative, we can start tackling it bit by bit. Yes.
When you mention being serious, let's go into the main body of the country, which basically makes for us the laws in order to curb such a vice down. We're speaking of the Parliament of Uganda, which is supposed to basically hold accountability for corruption cases. How would you rate its activity up until now?
Well, the Parliament of Uganda is it's a representative body.
Yes.
It represents our voices as citizens of the country, our interests, and it is the custodian of our, let's say, of our hopes, or as citizens of the country. That is why we vote. We vote our MPs, and then they go represent us in the House. Its stand on corruption is what can I say? Well, we are all against corruption, and over the years, as I've been watching, they have can say improved as a parliament to curbing corruption. Maybe as one of the committees that has been looking into the bodies such as
COSASE.
Yes, COSASE. Thank you. Bodies such as the Uganda Airlines and much more than that, actually. So I feel that it's commendable work from them. But the question is bigger than the parliament. But at least they're doing their small part. They are trying.
Okay, so when we speak of COSASE, what actually highlights in my head is how they have basically brought about highlights into the Uganda Airlines and the Entebbe Airport saga and all that. Moving into the education sector, whereby we have had UPE schools and then the UAC schools, they have been in existence for since day one of their introduction, which was actually graced by our president, His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni. But of now, its activities have basically deteriorated, whereby we have been seeing in news buildings of UEC schools, falling down into ramshackles. Would you say there's a problem in terms of accountability for money? Because money is actually budgeted on a yearly basis, annual basis, released into helping these institutions, which are basically government aided, to provide something into the society. Would you say there's a loophole in it, given the fact that a report by the Inspector General of Government, which is basically an entity of government looking at corruption, released the figures in their report in 2019 that about 51% of the government's expenditure is actually wasted to corruption, about 1.8 trillions. What would you say about that?
It's a big loophole. That's one thing I can say about that. Accountability is lacking. It's a wonderful idea to have UPE and USE because it serves to reach out to those that cannot afford.
Yeah, exactly.
It serves to reduce the barrier to entry for education services. And it is also in line with the goals to make sure that we respect our right to education.
Exactly.
Whereas that is very honorable and it's a noble cause, there is a loophole, as you say. There are big loopholes, and the loophole in one word could be corruption.
Yeah.
the government allocates funds to this ministry, and the ministry does allocate these funds to UPE and USE. But then again, we are facing so many issues. For example, the ghost teachers, all those different things. People using, because some UPE schools, for example, the teachers that do use the public resources or the school resources for personal gain. They can use the school truck meant for transporting students, as also a family truck, or trucks for gardening and everything. So we are a bit relaxed when it comes to UPE and USE. It's a good idea, but we are not looking at quality. And when we mention quality, it usually moves hand in hand with being stern or being firm. So we are not strict when it comes to UPE and USE. Maybe simply because it's free, maybe. If it's a free service, then somewhat it's disrespected. We only have public funds coming in. So when the parents are taking children to such schools, they do not expect a lot back. They feel like it's already a gift. I'm already taking my child to school for free. But then again, quality assurance. So corruption, but quality assurance could be a solution.
When you speak of us as a country being relaxed about the universal primary education and the universal secondary education schools, it begs me to question we as a country, because we have a case study of Rwanda. It's also an East African country. It's one of the third world developing countries, just as Uganda. Yes. There's no much difference with that we have between us and them. But then if you have to look at their education system, a bigger percentage or a chunk of it is actually governed by the government, and it's performing really great. What have we done as a country that has basically broken our credibility into providing? Because when you look at the education system in Africa, Uganda is actually considered as one of the best. But what have we done, in order to break that standpoint that we had in the beginning?
Well, thank you for that question as well. It takes me back to what I've been talking about at a small point, which goes back to being firm. We are lacking in the sternness. For example, if we look at what you have presented, Rwanda, it's doing well. It is doing fairly better in that sector than we are when it comes to government-aided schools, government schools. And it's because that they are firm, they are stern when it comes to public funds. If this is money that is paid by the people to offer a service, the fact that you have the audacity to use it for personal gains, it's okay, you can try. But when you are caught, the punishments are very, very stern. The warnings are stern. So everyone knows that this is public money, and we are supposed to do this with this public money.
Would you say at a particular point that the Ministry of Education, which is actually solely in charge of this program, has failed at a certain percentage? Because what would you say about that? Would you say that is the case?
Well, first we have to appreciate that the work of the Ministry of Education is big. It is big. If we look at the vice that is corruption, it is deep, far-reaching,
But it can be curbed.
It can be curbed.
Good.
But as you said, it's a big thing, and we have to break it down slowly. So I wouldn't say that it has failed, the ministry, but then I would say that it is not performing to our expectations. It's not performing to the level that it could be performing.
So do we need change in it? Is that what you said?
Oh yes, we do. We need adjustments. We need change. Not only in personnel. We do the first and foremost should be in mindset. Yes.
A wise man actually once said that it's only a fool who tries the same thing twice and expects different results out of it.
Yes.
I think that can actually be evidenced by the change in the Inspectorate General of Police. From the former back in 2016-15. When the security in the country was really at its best, and we had the change, and currently we actually have at least a stable security, which is actually good for education and other businesses, and I think that should be implemented into the system, for better results to be coming out. when we speak of highlights, as a student leader, guild president, Uganda Christian University, elect, by the way, because that is also something that is very important. Because when we speak of corruption, we have corruption breaking into different areas. When we speak of elections, that's why I brought up the elect. At your own capacity, what would you tell the students in high schools, in primary, students in university? What will be their role in terms of curbing down the vice of corruption?
Well, as a student leader, this would be my humble opinion or suggestion. The vice of corruption is something that it only begins when you, as an individual, you as Mr. Fred, hate the vice. If you hate the vice and you see the ways in which it makes you lose in the long run, that is when you start hating the vice. And once you see that, then I think...
What if I don't have the vice? What if I don't have the other offset of it, basically?
Let's say it has never affected you as an individual.
It's basically benefiting me.
Yes. Now that is the way. Now you are looking at yourself as an individual. So if I teach you to look at the bigger picture and how that picture affects you, then you can change your line of thought. For example, if I am to say that if you pay extra, you get to jump in line, that is beneficial to you.
Yeah.
But now that you have done that, I can as well. And if I pay a little bit more than you do, I'll jump ahead of you and several other people that will learn from your behavior and my behavior. The bigger picture affects you. Now, most people do not see that bigger picture. They see that now. Okay. So if we teach our children, and our children are teachable, the youth are teachable, once we teach them to see the bigger picture, it's a small step.
Well, there you have it from the Guild President, Mr. Timothy, Mr. Dumba Timothy, if I may basically correct myself, the Guild President-elect of Uganda Christian University 2028, our special guest today. His advice to you, the youths of me, you, and others who are outside there, is that you should not only look at it as an individual base, because that is where it starts from. If it is me and you who basically look at the bigger picture, how it affects the other person around us, then you can basically do a better job in terms of curbing corruption. Once again, I'm your host, Waniba Fred Numbers, and this is the National Schools Anti-Corruption Challenge 2023. Thank you.